Well, hello there, and welcome back to
Hello.
Gene and Roger Talk Movies. We're really
I'm
excited
Eugene.
today because it's just me and Gene,
Yeah, we
and
dumped those other
and
guys,
so we're
losers.
we're we're back to the original format
No,
where
I
it's
shouldn't say
just
they're
us.
cool kids. They're cool
Right,
cats.
that's
But
right.
we were happy to have them. We're going to have lots of guests.
Yeah, it's
It's
kind
good
of
stuff.
more people that hear what we're doing, they want to join and say their piece or whatever. Whether it's right or wrong, we don't
Yeah,
know. But hey, today we're doing an interesting,
very
kind of
interesting.
unique film. We're doing Lake Mungo. Came out in 2008. It's an Australian film, and
Yeah,
yes, Australians do films other than Mad Max movies. So,
they do.
yes. Gene, initial thoughts on Lake Mungo?
All right. So, hey, one of my definitions of horror is that's two things really. Is this one aspect of horror is that there should be some deformation or abstractness of the human form. And then two, somehow the movie that calls itself horror should make you feel uncomfortable as a person. It should make you doubt your choices, or it should make you think about your life, but it should make you feel uncomfortable. And a lot of movies that call themselves horror don't really accomplish one or both of those. But however, this movie definitely solid hits on both of those. And so I would definitely call Lake Mungo a really good, solid horror movie. If you're into the horror movie genre, definitely Lake Mungo is definitely a movie you've got to see. Many parts in this movie, definitely see it at night. That your hair is going on the back of your head and you're on your arm. And yeah, it's good stuff. Really like this movie.
Well, and the basic premise is, and the first thing I noticed about this film, which really caught my attention, is it's kind of this documentary style combined with like found footage stuff, and so it's a really unique presentation for this
Yeah,
film.
not really so much found footage because they use a lot of film, but it was like the brother, his name's Martin, and he shoots a lot of the film that they show, but the process of him filming reveals a lot of things. I'll just say for right now.
Right. The basic premise is the family's out for a little swimming fun time, picnic
Right.
kind of thing out at this one reservoir. And the 15 or 16-year-old daughter, I cannot remember.
Alice, 16.
But yeah, Alice ends up drowning.
Drowns.
And so,
She goes out swimming with her brother Martin. They go fairly far. Martin, they decide to turn around. Martin makes it back, and Alice doesn't.
right.
Yeah.
And the initial part of the film is kind of this documentary style thing where, they're trying to recover the body. The family is in the
Yeah, they're
beginning
interviewing
stages.
the police. You see footage from the local TV station. Yeah, it's like you're watching a PBS documentary.
Right, exactly. But it's really heavy at that point in the film on the grief that's starting to overcome the parents and then the brother,
Right.
and as well as how it affects some of the other members of the community there. And I really did, Gene, appreciate the grief aspect of this film because it kind of hits, I think, every possible avenue one would go down when they're going through grief. As you know, my mother just recently died.
Yes,
And so
yes, condolences.
this movie was very interesting because I like how the dad kept the light on at the front porch because, hey, maybe she's going to come back. And there's this whole sequence where they do recover Alice's body, and it's horribly bloated and just a mess.
Right.
But the parents have to come down and identify the body, and the dad, being the man, has decided that it's his responsibility as the father to
Yeah,
identify.
the mom, June, doesn't want to do
She
it.
doesn't, and so there's this sequence where the dad actually kind of chastises the mom a little bit for not having had that closure of actually seeing the corpse of her daughter.
Right, very good.
And I just really liked how they're just going through these stages of grief. We'll hit on it a little bit more as we talk further because the brother goes through his own stage of grief, which is kind of a catalyst for a lot of what happens in this film.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead, Gene.
Yeah. This definitely movie touches on that grief. However, there's lots of themes going on here, and I think, like for me, a bigger theme that kind of hits me is that, and again, I'll kind of touch on this, is I think good horror movies, and I think the horror genre has a unique capability to do this, is that it could affect people, in different ways. For me, it kind of made me think, about, because, Alice dies, but it made me think about like the whole ideas that are about our thoughts, our thoughts, the way we think, the thoughts that we allow to perpetuate in our mind. These thoughts can imprison us. Can these thoughts, determine our fate? Do we determine our thoughts? If a thought that's negative enters our mind, can we purge our mind of such a thought? Because Alice Palmer, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but about midway through the movie, she's a 16-year-old girl, just popular. That her and a bunch of friends go out to Lake Mungo, and they're having a good time, good time, right? But part of it, Alice, she's off by herself, and she sees kind of an apparition, in the distance, and she walks over to it, and what she sees is herself, and what she sees is herself as the drowned person. So I think in her mind, she has a vision, or she starts thinking that she's going to die. And so it just makes me wonder, is like, as time goes on, does Alice become so convinced that she's going to die, is that it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy? Is she in control of her thoughts? It's like, it just makes me think of the broader theme about how we think. What do we think about? Are we such in control of these things? It just makes me think it just makes me think about water safety. My own kids, it's like, we like to go, canoeing and be on the water like anyone else. And you got to have life jackets. My kids is, swimmers in a swim meet right now, and, but life preservers all the time. But Alice and Martin go out swimming without them, and it's just like, is Alice kind of making it so that she can die? It's just, it makes me think about a lot of like this kind of thought, and it just makes me think, like Roger just shared that about a person, about his family. His mom died, but my brother, in 95, he committed suicide. And as time passes on, you kind of learn some things, and I learned that he was having a conversation with his wife at the time, and he had somehow decided to commit suicide, and he asked her if she would go with him. And then she said no. But, I learned about these conversations years later, and just made me think, it makes me think about my brother. It's like, did he somehow get in his mind that, he was going to die, so it had to happen? Like so Alice in this movie, she had the apparition, she saw a ghost, and so it has to happen now. So I don't know, a little long-winded there, but
no, but that's the brilliance of this film,
right.
too.
It is really good.
Because there's this other underlying thing going on where there's like this time displacement, because there's
that's really good.
The introduction of this quote-unquote psychic that the mother starts talking to. They do a seance, things like that. But you find out later, and one of the key pieces of dialogue is they're interviewing one of Alice's friends, and I can't remember the line exactly, but it was like, she kept secrets, and even her secrets were secret, or something like that. So she wasn't...
The secrets had secrets.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Alice, as the movie plays out, you start learning things that Alice was involved in that nobody else really knew.
Right.
Now, whether that's, hey, I'm going to be reckless now because I know I'm going to die, and so I'm just kind of being reckless, I don't know. But there was a sequence there where Alice had actually met up with this psychic, and there's this really beautiful scene at the end where what the mom is talking about and what Alice are talking about are kind of juxtaposed, and basically they're in the same room at the same time, but neither one can see the other, right? Because they're out of time right there. And it's
at the very end of the movie, and it's kind of blows your mind a little bit.
Yes, it's a brilliant,
it's put together well.
Brilliant, yeah. That's it. That's the thing with this movie is, people might discount it because, a found footage thing, or kind of this documentary thing, kind of a Blair Witch thing, whatever. That's not what this movie is.
No, it's not at all.
It is incredibly unique, well acted from a bunch of non-professional actors, and just has this tone and just this sadness and this grief, but also there's a lot to think about in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, the parents, they have their grief, and of course the grief, the first stages is denial, but almost immediately after Alice drowns, they start noticing, the dad, Russell, he notices, he hears some sounds from Alice's room, and then he hears the door closing. So right at the beginning, there's this, like, they said they rehung Alice's door.
Mm-hmm.
They went in there and checked it out. But they keep hearing, even after the door was rehung, just so it wouldn't close on its own. They kept hearing noises in there. And he even relates that one time he went into the room and he was just sitting in there. And then he saw Alice walk into the room, and then Alice was just like staring out the window. But then all of a sudden something happened, and he knew that Alice was aware of his presence. And then Alice kind of like turned to him and yelled at him, so it's like he saw Alice, and somehow along the process of grief that that Roger's talking about. But the brother, Martin, he is a very good videographer, and he starts producing these doctored videos. And these videos, he transposes an image of Alice onto these videos such that it looks like in him shooting a video that actually you can see the ghost of Alice. Like there's a lot of like footage of Martin setting up a camera so it shoots down the hallway and you see these images walking by. But it's just like Martin created these things. There's a big thing where Martin is shooting footage from his backyard, kind of taking time-lapse things, and then all of a sudden there's Alice there. Because they can hear the noises in the room, and so I think it messes up with their grief, and then Martin created these things because I think his process of grief, and it just really caused, especially the mom, and then the mom seeks out that psychic. And
I think too with because the brother's idea was, my mom keeps thinking that Alice is still alive somewhere, and in his mind he was saying, well, if I do this, maybe they'll exhume the body, which she never saw the body. Only the dad saw the body. And there's a great scene there where the dad is saying, I knew she was dead, but I was now beginning to doubt myself. Maybe it was somebody else's kid that we pulled out there because the mom was so adamant that maybe the kid was still alive. So they end up exhuming the body to get verifiable DNA proof that, no, it is absolutely Alice.
And it is Alice.
And
Alice is dead.
She is absolutely dead. And the thing I liked about that sequence, though, with the brother finally coming clean and going, I'm just making it up. This is all a lie. I'm just this is my way of grieving, I guess, or whatever it is. Well, the movie doesn't stop. It keeps going because, you know what? There is an actual haunting going on here.
Right. Even though these videos are being produced by Martin, that Alice is actually coming back and she's actually a ghost. But in Martin and him producing those videos, another theme of this movie is Roger brought this up, is secrets, and secrets, they're insidious, because I think if you have secrets, this movie plays on the idea that secrets lead to harm. Like you can't have healthy relationships if you're having secrets with these people that you claim to care about, because secrets will cause division and harm within your group. And so these videos, there's one particular video and obviously they've examined these videos in great detail, but there's this one video where it's shot down the hall, you see this apparition walking across the hallway, but then they zoomed onto this video in this far right corner, and you could see the image of a guy. And all of a sudden, and then they look at it and they realize, something? That's my neighbor.
That's our next door neighbor.
That's my neighbor. My neighbor is going into my house. Why isn't my neighbor going? And it brings up this whole idea of the secrets. And so they examine Alice's room and they find this, like, Roger, what is this? Like a secret passage?
Yeah,
remember they take a panel?
Yeah, she had dug out a little panel in the wall there and covered it up so that no one knew it was there.
Knew.
And they found it, and there's this this tape, this
There's
VHS
the
tape.
little, it's just the safe. There's a little safe.
Mm-hmm.
They open it, and then there's a VHS tape. Of course, shows what 2008, right? VHS
Yeah,
tapes.
VHS tapes.
I mean, 2008 were VHS tapes around? No, they weren't. They were dying for sure.
They were dying for sure, but it's unclear exactly when that footage on
Right,
that
it could have
tape
been
was
earlier,
taken, because they had said that she had been babysitting that family
For a long
for
time.
two and a half years, I think it was.
And it's shocking because Alice is 16, right? So it's shocking they put the tape in, and what is it? It's a sex video. It's like Alice and the two people she babysits for.
The two adults.
The two
So,
adults, they're doing
mhm.
some kind of threesome going.
Yep.
So this is like shocking with a minor. It's just appalling. You know, it's just the level of secrets. And Roger, I kind of like what you said, is that maybe Alice had that apparition or thought in her mind that she was going to die. So it's like, I can do whatever I want.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's pretty, it's not explained, but the whole idea of that there's secrets, I can't imagine what the father or the mother would then think about their daughter, you know, because you have this certain memory, then all of a sudden there's this tape appears, and the tape would just kind of pollute that memory, I would think. So,
Right, and Gene, I'll
Right.
just back that up too, though, where that's the beauty of this film again, because how many people listening to this podcast right now have some secret that they don't want anyone else to know, and it's locked away in a cabinet somewhere or some random thing, and you know what? We're all going to die at some point, and somebody's going to find whatever that information is, right? You know,
Right.
and I liked how they went back to the dad after that video had been discovered, and the dad was saying, well, here's what I want to do. If I see that neighbor, I'm going to throttle him.
Right.
But then he segued into, you know, at the end of the day, it's sure as heck appeared consensual, right? Even
Right,
though
that's what the
a minor obviously can't do
Right.
that, but it's like it wasn't like she was fighting him and getting just, you know, violently raped or anything. So he was having this,
He was
you know,
hypothesizing what the neighbor would say. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, so he was having this major struggle as to, because
Right.
they both, the mom and the dad, wanted to blame that neighbor for the fact that their daughter had drowned. But it's just, you know, the proof is right there in front of you.
Right. Yeah, I just think that it's just the whole idea of secrets is like you don't necessarily have to have a secret that's like has a video or, you know, I mean, just something that you're just not sharing.
Right.
You know, but I think even the process of just you're keeping something and not sharing it, you're causing a little division between, you know, people that you should be close to or you should be closer to, you know, and we create these walls between ourselves, and this movie really touches on this. And you know, and this is, why do we do this? Why do we create these walls, and why do we keep them up? And you know, ultimately, I think it's because we're afraid. Maybe we're afraid to expose our real selves. You know, like my brother he must have been really afraid. He was scared to share what was going on deep down inside of him. You know, maybe that's it. I'm just, you know, I'm just speculating here, but you know, there's something about humanity that we gravitate towards walls, and we look. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No,
I think we look with admiration at people that are really open, that have open lives.
right. But I also think I liked the dad, who I think was had the best dialogue in the film, really. But he was talking about how he felt really bad because this thing had happened, and now maybe his daughter was too embarrassed or whatever to approach him anymore. So clearly there had been some lack of communication or lack of trust with that father or what have you, to where she couldn't come to him to say anything. And I just really, that's backing up your point exactly, where you sometimes the wall you create is you don't go and talk to somebody who's your trusted father figure or whatever to alleviate whatever was going on there.
Yeah, and I think going back to what I was saying about thoughts, I think our thoughts, you know, if we're not talking about them, our thoughts can just be crazy. You know, it's just like if you just shared that, you know, somebody could have really helped Alice, I think,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, talked her to a better path. But somehow I think this is, again, a condition of humanity where, You know, we put up walls and we don't share what's going on in our mind. We don't think about, yeah. So, and it can't lead to a good place. It just doesn't.
Right. And I think give this movie a shot. It is not a pleasant, fun, happy horror movie. It's what horror is supposed to be. And
Right.
it's very disturbing and unsettling, and it, like Gene said, maybe makes you feel a little uncomfortable, but it's so much smarter than maybe people would give it credit
Yeah,
for
it's
until you really start looking at the themes that are laying underneath this film. And then the stuff with the psychic is amazing.
yeah.
And yeah, definitely give it a shot. It's well worth your time. Gene, final thoughts on Lake Mungo?
Yeah, it's just like a lot of it is like at the end credits, they show lots of like still photos, and they kind of zoom in, and you can see where Alice, she's off there in the background.
Yep.
She's in that photo. You know, so I wonder if I look at some of my photos, am I going to see some? Well, no, I'm not. It's kind of crazy, but it's an interesting idea. Other movies have played with this idea. I remember I was watching when I was a kid, Candyman of all things. And there was a scene where there was a photo, and in the room it was just the two. It was two women. There was just two women. They take a photo, and into a mirror. But then, again, like when they were there was just two. There was a room and just them. But when they when they developed the photo, there was clearly a third person there with them in the room. So, you know, it just kind of it plays with that idea. This whole thing of photography and. But ultimately, this movie kind of plays it out that even though Martin created the videos and Alice was really
She was there.
She was there. She really was there.
And it appears that she's kind of now trapped in that house too, because the parents and the brother move away at the end, and she's still in there.
Right, because there's a scene where they're leaving the house. They've cleaned it up and they're leaving, but you see Alice's image in the bedroom, in the bedroom window. Yeah,
definitely give this movie a chance if you haven't seen it, and let us know what you think. Gene is leaving for a couple weeks, but he has promised us now that we will be doing X when he comes back. So his A24 and it's X. It's with America's Sweetheart. Well, actually, two America's Sweethearts. There's Mia Goth and Jenna Ortega in this one. And so I'm broadcasting that live to everyone right now, so he can't back out.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it, but one thing that, you know, clearly I like the horror genre. It's cool. But one thing I don't like about the horror genre is, my gosh, I think oftentimes it's done because it's cheap and it gets attention. You just there's a certain element in some movies, a certain element of soft porn. You know, and I don't like it. You know, it's cheap, just for effect, you know, and I don't know. Roger's favorite movie. It's an A24.
It's not my favorite, but it's.
So I'm going to give in. I'm going to watch the dumb thing.
And I appreciate that, Gene.
Thanks.
My hope is you'll be like, oh my God, this is a godsend. I can't believe I was putting it up.
I really doubt that.
Anyway, we'll see in it'll be like 3 weeks before we're back on.
First week in July.
Yeah, so we'll catch you then. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you the next time.
Lake Mungo.
Bye-bye.